everyone. We are the Good Doctors of Abbey Research. I am Dr. Hinson.
I'm Dr. Donnelly.
And we are back talking about new things on streaming channels. For those of you that might follow the television analysis we do here on our YouTube channel, we were planning on talking about The Handmaid's Tale because the past two seasons have launched in April. And guess what?
Hulu made a different choice.
Hulu made a different choice. So we had all these wonderful plans to go from our coverage to Dietland, links below, right into The Handmaid's Tale. And yeah, Hulu had other plans. So we punted and we found some things to talk about for the next 6 or so weeks. And we thought one of the things would be great to talk about just on the back of our coverage of Dietland is Hulu, again, had released a new show in March called Shrill. Starring Aidy Bryant, who is one of the cast members on SNL. So we're going to do a one-off, Aaron and Kristen talk about Shrill, because there were 6 episodes, but they're very short, and they're, to be honest, we didn't think there was a whole lot of substance to talk about episode by episode. So we're just going to do a general, here's what we thought about it. We just found out the other day, as we're filming this, that it got renewed for a second season. So it's apparently popular.
It appears to be.
It appears to be that people liked it. We both watched it. You know, it's not really my story, so I don't feel like I can have a lot to say critically about it. As a show, you know, I didn't care for it. Sometimes it was funny, but Aidy Bryant's character of, oh crap, I'm not gonna even remember what it was called. I'll look it up. Was not a nice person.
No, she wasn't kind.
So we're going to talk Annie.
Annie.
I think that was her name. Yeah, there were a lot of similarities between Dietland, which in our opinion is not really a good thing at all.
Yeah.
So she's not like, she has this revelation.
Yep.
During the show, during these, you know, couple episodes that, she is empowered in her body in the size that it is.
Amazing.
Considers herself to be beautiful.
Two times way up.
Dressing that, you know,
more
comfortably,
yep.
Dressing more at, you know, adventure.
Yep.
Some in her dress.
Yep.
Go girl, love it. She has a terrible relationship with this guy Ryan.
Oh
it's super toxic at the beginning, and I'm like, oh yeah, man, she is gonna kick him to the curb now that she is like loving herself. And then she's like, no, let's go on a date. And I was like, girl, he got you pregnant and he didn't even care.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah.
What is this? And he has like a podcast about Alcatraz. Like, make better choices. So that was one of the similarities that we saw between Dietland and Shrill, was that with this newfound empowerment and love of self comes being a dick to people.
Yeah. She
was unkind to her friends and her coworkers. She became very self-centered during this process of self-realization and discovery, which is not psychologically necessary, but Hollywood seems to think it is. Yeah, especially, and like, so we don't know if this is what Hollywood thinks happens to fat women when they become empowered. That, like, because it was very similar in Dietland for anyone who didn't join us. For anyone who didn't watch our Dietland coverage, very, very similar story. She becomes empowered. She finds a lot of self-love and appreciation. She continues to have horrible relationships with men in Dietland and is horrible to everyone in her life. Yeah. And so it's like, do they believe that like fat women only have so much love? And so they used to love other people and hate themselves. And now it has to be inverse. Now that they love themselves, they have to hate on everybody else. I just think about like there was a show on Lifetime in the aughts called Drop Dead Diva, which was like problematic in its own ways, but like the fat woman in that had really good relationships. She was a wonderful person. Yeah. Like, why in this new age of body empowerment do we have to go back to like anger and bitterness and terribleness? Like, I am angry a lot as to how people my size are treated. Not gonna lie. Yet I managed to have, I hope at least, functional relationships. Lots of them. And I don't allow people to treat me like dirt, which both of these characters, Annie and what's her face
from
Plum.
Oh yeah,
It was in
they
there.
did, and in both cases too, the book's better than the show. I've read both books.
Oh right, I forgot you read.
Yeah,
Shrill.
this is based on Shrill by Lindy West, who is a wonderful writer.
We'll put the link below.
And there's a couple elements of the book Shrill that I was really hoping that they would unpack in the show that they didn't. And this isn't. If we have to keep telling these stories for a little bit longer to get to the story where the fat girl gets the happily ever after, like, cool. But I also don't believe that art needs to be torturous. Like, we are not people that think that art means depression.
No.
And a lot of important storytellers in the world think that. You know, the stuff that wins awards.
Or that it's like realistic that the person isn't happy, or that
that happiness is a cheat somehow.
Yeah, that's not. And you know, like, yeah, happily ever after is a bit of a fantasy in a lot of ways that it's written, but that doesn't mean people can't be happy
or have really fulfilling and healthy relationships.
Yeah, or that doesn't mean that people can't make good relationship choices.
Yeah.
Like, I would have loved to see her, like, why did she have to stay with Ryan? Why did there have to be a romantic relationship? Why could she not have just said, like, you know what? No, you don't respect me. You don't treat me right. I'm going to spend some time working on myself because I hated myself for a long time, and I'm working on not doing that.
Because it just felt like it perpetuated the myth that fat girls should be grateful for any attention they get.
Yeah,
and like that's like, I just didn't.
You know, he's not nice, and she's like, oh well, now he wants to go on a date with me because I had one moment where I clapped back at him and said, you can't treat me this way, and I deserve better. And he
like this was my face through most of the last 3 episodes.
And then he starts like. He shows up at her work.
I was like, out on it. I was just out.
You told him no, and he's like not listening.
We also respect, by the way, that we are very burned by Dietland.
Yeah, so maybe this came at the wrong
time for us. Like
emotionally.
As we started watching, I was like, no, I've seen this story before and it was shitty last time. Why am I watching it again? So people who have not lived through the dumpster fire that was the second half of Dietland are having different reactions to this show, and that's fantastic. We're not saying it's a bad show. We're simply saying it's not the story we wanted to encounter.
Aside from the pool episode.
The pool episode is great. If you don't need to watch the whole series or know anything about it to watch the pool party episode, it is wonderful. And really, I definitely cried out of feeling seen and feeling kind of loved in that moment. And we should say too, Adie Bryant is wonderful.
Yeah, she is fantastic in
and
it.
She needs more roles in which she gets to be herself. And I'm frustrated that all of the amazing clothes that they made for her in this show were custom made, so we can't buy them anywhere.
I know.
There's so many great, like Eloquy and even Christian Siriano in haute couture stuff. Like there's a lot of really great clothes out there right now that you could get off the rack. Like, why didn't they Kate Middleton this so that we could all wear anyway?
Kate Middleton, nice.
Small pet peeve. But
but seriously, if you want to be on and you know, we both obviously feel like art can change society and help move society forward. So if you want to make this show that's about empowerment and acceptance and love and telling other people's stories and centering a story that doesn't get centered, like, why wouldn't you want to say, you know what, we made the show and we partnered with Target, and guess what, you can find everything in the Target line. Why wouldn't you want to do that and to make everything bespoke? And then because the article you sent me that where they talked to the clothes designer about it, she was like proud the fact that they made everything bespoke, and it was like so important to understanding the character. And I was like, yeah, but now everybody else is like, oh, that's really cute, I can't buy it.
And that's already a problem.
Exactly.
So like, it's one of those, like, I mean, I don't want to do the like Hollywood is out of touch with America, but but I'm going to for this.
I'm going to.
I think in this case, it's true. And this was a all-female writing staff, and you can definitely tell from a storytelling women perspective, it's different. It feels different. They're telling different stories.
They centered people of color.
And there were so many great things about it. But in terms of art I want to consume, this is not on the list. And so that's frustrating because, I mean, I want to continue to be seen, but I guess I'll just keep going back to Hairspray because that's still the best case.
Yeah, and like the other elements of the show that just kind of took me out of it. And maybe, again, Dr. Donnelly said, because we just watched Dietland. So there's this writing element, because apparently that's how fat women find themselves, is through writing. And in Dietland, she has an overinflated sense of her own writing talent. And I think so does Annie's character a little bit.
Which is crazy, because Lindy West is incredible. Like, Lindy West is a great writer, but I didn't.
And like, Annie writes one blog, it blows up, and all of a sudden she thinks she is the next, like, I don't know, name a really famous blogger. She, like, or she's like the next, you know.
She's the next Brene Brown.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. So she like writes one blog in this small town for the website. It goes really well, and she has a lot of great reception aside from the horrible trolling, which was also an important thing to cover, I think, and they did that pretty well. And then she's like, yeah, I'm the best writer ever. Why don't you want to feature me all the time? So she, like, it's this weird switch, which is exactly what happened in Dietland.
It was
like
bizarre.
She wrote one great blog, and all of a sudden was like, yes, please.
Whereas like every writer,
the Man Booker Prize.
Yeah. And like every writer I know, instead, like J.K. Rowling struggles with like, I'm not a good writer, and she's made gajillions. Like, like, I mean, we've written books and we still feel like it's taking an ice pick to a freezer, in the words of Amy Poehler. Like, writing is hard.
It's hard, and every writer knows that.
Yeah.
And like, we know a lot of writers, and you know, we know that, like, even though a friend of ours is on her 4th book and is really honest about how hard it is to write, and like,
she's won like national awards. She's
blowing up like the crime world
in Ireland.
In Ireland. Shout out Lizzie Nugent.
Yes.
But she's still really open and honest on her social media about how hard it is to write. And so to me, that felt totally inauthentic for every person I know that's a writer. And I was like, you want me to buy into this storyline? And then you're telling me that after one blog, she thinks she doesn't have any more confidence issues with writing?
There are more interesting stories to tell than the one they told. That's pretty much, in our opinion, that's pretty much the summary of our experience with Shrill. We will certainly go back to season 2 to see what they do.
I'll see.
No promises if we cover it, but we'll dip back in and see where they go. Because, I mean, it was a nonfiction book that they made a fictional story out of. So that's interesting. And we'll see what happens. But this is it from us on this conversation for now. So with that, I'm Dr. Donnelly.
I'm Dr. Hinson.
We're the Good Doctors of Abbey Research, and we'll see you next time. Bye.